You are here. You found us, the #1 podcast for you, who you get up every day and you get after it, bringing fitness to those around you, whether you know it or not. We're talking about bringing physical fitness, health fitness, wealth fitness, risk fitness, emotional fitness, spiritual fitness. Today, we're going to talk about your tax fitness. We also talk about some other things too, Kim. What do we talk about?
We talk about some super duper important things, and
that is very true.
Some not so important things.
We talk about some very not so important things. So without further ado, let's get this show rolling. All right, guys, in today's podcast, we chocked full of info. We got tiny crab robots soon to take over the world. David, I know you're a robotics guy. You're going to love this one. Caffeine increases your energy at the same time decreasing your risk of death. A study in the UK tells us so. We're going to talk about that.
Wow.
We got the pop culture pop quiz, the wedding edition, and we also have special guest David Waddleton from Waddleton Bookkeeping and Tax. He's talking about how he kept clients fit during the tax season, but also how he keeps clients fit all year long. He's going to give you some tips and some tricks on how to keep yourself fit as well.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
God, I am hot today. I'm running a hot hand.
Man. I just love how
look at that.
Men just wake up in the morning and they're like, hey, I'm awesome. Look how hot I am. Look how great I am.
Yeah. Didn't even do my hair today. Look at this bed head right here. I didn't even have to do my hair today.
It looks like you cut your hair.
Yes, I did. Finally. Thank you for noticing.
Well, that's what I need to do.
Sorry.
Well,
it
David,
looks great.
I have a trick.
I
have a trick. When I start looking gray, I have it cut. Yeah. I'd rather look at skin than gray hair. So I get the skin fade. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
I know that we don't have a ton of time, but since you talked about hair, I have to throw this in there. This last weekend for Memorial, I was with my family, and my sister was like, she's older than I am, and she's like, I've still never had a gray hair. And I look at her and I'm like, Jamie, you dye your hair like every 6 weeks. Like, how do you know if you don't have a gray hair? I think that you're keeping the blonde so in tune here that you have no idea what's going on underneath there. Because she was also like, the texture of my hair has changed. It's so much thicker and coarser. And I'm like, it's because it's gray hair that you're keeping the blonde hair dye over.
So can you dye a blonde moment? Is that what's happening? She's actually dyed herself into a blonde moment?
Oh. I don't know if I want to go there, but she's actually one of the smartest, best people I know. But I just thought that part was super funny.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Hey Brett.
Yes, Kim.
Guess what?
What?
I think it's time that we talk about our very important unofficial sponsor, the Coffee Oasis.
Yes, indeed. Kim, it's the time where people want to help. How many times have I come across where people say, gosh, I want to get involved in the community. How do I help? Here's something great. You can help out with street and school outreach. You can help out with job training, with shelters, with meals, with even clothing. You can even help provide mentorship to the less fortunate youth, and do all that with an organization that's been creating opportunities for youth to thrive since 1997. How do they do that, Kim?
So first of all, they buy their coffee.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not a coffee drinker, Brett, but you still want to be involved, the Coffee Oasis is looking for sponsors right now, sponsors and donors for their 9th annual Hope Gala on October 15th. And to participate, you can go to coffeeoasis.com or click on the link in our description below.
So that's awesome. So that's a great way to help out and get involved in the community by drinking coffee. Again, if you're a coffee drinker, I'm not sure that we know very many of those. But in the offshoot that you might be a non-coffee drinker, Coffee Oasis still loves you. Get involved with the sponsorships, get involved with the donations, get involved with the annual Hope Gala. Be sure, whether you buy a cup of coffee, sponsor, or even attend the gala, let them know that Fitness Full Circle family sent you and that you are part of the Fitness Full Circle family.
And
Kim?
remember that where you get your coffee may not mean much to you, but it means everything to them.
So go to their business and what? Buy their coffee.
Yes. So Brett, I think that we may have shot ourselves in the foot a little bit talking about our parents being the primary commenters on our podcast.
Have our parents stopped commenting?
Yes, I think they got embarrassed of being called out. So we had no new comments, which means either two things. Either number one, people are so engaged with our show that they forget to comment because they're watching it so closely and they're super excited. And when they're done, they're immediately sharing the podcast because they're so excited about what they just heard and saw.
Absolutely.
Or number two, we suck. What do you think?
No, it's definitely got to be the first one. The engagement.
Definitely the first one. Absolutely the first one.
Or people have forgotten that if they comment, they get entered into a drawing for a Fitness Full Circle nice t-shirt.
Yes.
Right. So if it's
I'm still waiting for my t-shirt too.
It's coming from Latvia. If you are not moved by the podcast, to send us a message and to say, hey guys, you guys did a fantastic job. Because you got to remember our software does filter out the negative comments. So Kim, we may have got comments, but they may have been negative, and our software filters out the negative comments. So it may look like we had 0, but we may have had a lot of comments. We're not sure about that. But nonetheless, if you got something positive to say, if you are our parents, don't worry, send us a comment. And if for no other incentive, you love free stuff, drop us a comment. We're going to put you in the drawing for a Fitness Full Circle t-shirt at our next free t-shirt time.
I don't know what's worse, the fact that no one commented, or there could have been negative comments that got deleted.
Well, the software will never know.
Shoot. All right. Brett, you made a comment earlier that I have to inquire about because you talked about robot crabs, and my son is currently obsessed with the crab rave music video on YouTube of those kind of robot crabs just dancing all over the beach. You probably don't know what I'm talking about because you don't know anything about.
Yeah, I know nothing on this coolness level. I'm in the empty end.
So why don't you tell me about these robot crabs?
Well, super cool that we have David Waddleton today because I know that he's a robotics kind of guy. So I was reading through the USA Today. When I meant reading through, I mean skimming through it for articles. But I came across this article about miniature remote-controlled robot crabs may someday be used in heart surgeries. And these are like the coolest things. Like these are legit like crab-looking spider things. 1 millimeter in size. In the video that I saw, it was the crab was walking on a quarter. It was walking on the edge of a quarter.
Wow.
Oh.
And so they've built these things to go in and fix mechanical things on vehicles, on industrial things, but also the possibility of crawling inside your body and going and fixing things while it's inside there. So
I don't know, man.
The unit is pliable. It's super pliable. It's made of some silicone things, right? I don't know. But they shoot it with laser. And when they shoot it with the laser, it melts or deforms. And that's how they move this thing with this laser. They're getting this crab to move because they're shooting it with lasers. And that's how this thing is moving. It's like the coolest, craziest thing ever that I'd seen. And yeah, so I was like, man, I gotta talk to David about this, see if he saw this on the USA Today and these miniature robot crabs.
Yeah, but so you're saying that it's being moved by lasers?
It's being moved by lasers, yeah. Yeah,
Huh.
that's how they're moving these robotic crabs with lasers, at least from what I
Interesting.
understand. Yeah.
So I would be more thinking that they're shooting lasers at us maybe to do things like cut things or seal things, or I don't know. That would be interesting.
The whole shooting laser, that seems very conspiracy theory, David. I kind of thought that's where you're going with that. I was like, man, give me something juicy, bud. Give me some juicy conspiracy theory stuff.
No. But wouldn't be that hard to do on some of that kind of stuff because you can program it all. So then if you've got things, if it's that small, it's miniaturized enough that you could actually do all kinds of different things. So that means that they can see where they're going. So then, because it can't just go without seeing where it's going. So that means that you got to be able to have a camera and it's got to be projecting, because if it's using a laser, I mean, that means that you got all kinds of other things you could have going on.
Yeah. Pretty interesting stuff.
Scary.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, this entire conversation freaks me out. Like, I don't know if I can handle little, like, I love that you called it spider-like crabs, because I always tell my husband that crabs are the spiders of the sea, because they just remind me of like just gross. And so, anyways.
But my mind works differently. Like the first thing I thought of when I thought of that is I thought of on Pirates of the Caribbean. Remember when those rocks turns into crabs and they're walking around? That was like the first thing that I thought of, because I have a childhood imagination. So
that's actually one of the remixes of the Crab Rave song that my son loves to watch. He's like, Pirate Crab Rave, and it's got that scene from Pirates of the Caribbean with the music in the background.
Yeah, I was like robotic crabs. Anyway, that was, I thought, with David come on, I thought we would we'd throw that out there. I thought that was a cool piece.
Right. I've got to also, I want to find out more about what you said about drinking coffee can actually lower my risk of death. How does that work?
That is truth. Now here's a little bit of truth that I'm going to tell you. This is a study out of the United Kingdom. Now, those avid podcast listeners, they will recognize the United Kingdom studies that we've done. In podcast 2, we presented a study that the UK did in a correlation between increasing wine consumption and decreasing your risk of COVID. That was true. That was in podcast number 2. That was out of the UK. In podcast number 6, I cited a UK study that talked about lowering your golf strokes can lower your risk of stroke, and how playing golf is actually lengthens your life. So in more United Kingdom studies, we have a study that's come out that says that coffee may be linked to lowering your risk of death, even with a little bit of sugar. And so the study was about 120,000 people over 7 years, and who they drank either unsweetened or sweetened coffee. And the findings suggested that those who drank between 1.5 to 3.5 cups a day had a lower risk of death during those 7 years than non-coffee drinkers, even if they added a teaspoon of sugar.
That makes me wonder what the non-coffee drinkers are drinking. If it's not
Exactly.
coffee, what are they doing for their energy? Are they using the supplement, or are they just drinking soda?
I was thinking maybe Bailey's.
Obviously.
That would probably,
that sounds like a valid option. Yeah.
Yeah, the control group was drinking
that
Bailey's.
That would go with the coffee drinkers, I think. I mean, I'm a coffee drinker, and I think I would rather choose my coffee with my Bailey's than my soda with my Bailey's. So
yeah. But on the whole, people who drank unsweetened coffee were 16 to 21% less likely to die during the study period than people who didn't drink coffee at all.
Wow.
So again, kind of going back to our commercial, where if we know coffee drinkers, they are obviously more safe than non-coffee drinkers.
Clearly.
Yeah.
It's science.
Obviously so. So they better make sure they keep drinking, because you don't want to just drop off when the study's over, because they need to keep going.
Exactly. The participants in the study, they were around 56 years old on average, and were recruited from 2006 to 2010. And the research accounted for diet, smoking, socioeconomic, pre-existing health conditions, exposures, air pollutions, all those kinds of things. And that's what they came up with. And then very interesting part of this, though, is that the result suggested that people who drank sugar-sweetened coffee were 29 to 31% less likely to die than non-coffee drinkers. So actually slightly higher risk reduction for those that put sugar in their coffee.
Wow.
Unsweetened.
Interesting.
However, here comes the fitness coach in me is going to come out, right?
I knew that you were going to ruin this somehow.
Yes, it's going to be ruined. While I do not suggest that it's healthier to add sugar to your coffee than to drink it plain, the studies did show that, but the amount of sugar that you put in your coffee is very important, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to broadcast it out there and people are like, all right, mochachinos, let's go. Because there is a lot of sugar that are loaded in there. So the sugar that they were talking about was 1 teaspoon of sugar, not a 1/4 cup of sugar like you're going to find in most of your regular drive-through coffee places. So.
Okay. Well, a very smart fitness and nutrition coach that I had once upon a time told me to get Jordan's sugar-free syrups for my coffee, and they are delicious. So I just add a splash of milk and some of that, and my coffee is better than ever. So
Isn't that amazing?
I don't remember what that guy's name was. I mean,
no, but here's what I will tell you, Mr. Jordan, if you are out there, we are not endorsing Mr. Jordan at this point in his skinny syrups, but if Mr. Jordan does want us to endorse his syrups, we most certainly will. And he can get a hold of us at the Fitness Full Circle Podcast at gmail.com. Mr. Jordan.
Mr. Jordan.
Yeah.
Oh,
but anyway, so here's the most important part. Here's what I take away from all this, from podcast 2, from podcast 6, and now from podcast 9. The UK, everything's cool in the UK. If you want to drink, golf and drink coffee, move to the UK, because they said that it's going to make you live longer. I don't know what's in the water over there, but I'm guessing it's wine or coffee too. So
probably is. Yes.
All right. It is pop culture pop quiz time. If you've seen any of our podcasts, you know how this works. David Waddleton is paired up against Kim Aker. And here's what happens, David. If you want to move on to why we brought you here, which is to be our guest, you have got to pass our test. So, rigorous test in the pop culture pop quiz. David, you have got to get at least 2nd place in order to move on against the pop culture queen, Kim. So, David, we know that you got married not too long ago. It's one of the reasons why you bailed on us on the last podcast. So what we wanted to do is, knowing that you got married in between there, which is a semi-okay excuse. And we know that you had a exceedingly lavish wedding yourself. We can only assume. What I wanted to do is I wanted to test your knowledge of lavish weddings themselves that you based your wedding on. And so I wrote down the 13 most expensive weddings in history. And so you're going to be faced off against Kim, and this is just kind of a shout it out kind of situation. Who do you think had the most expensive weddings in history?
Princess Diana.
That was in my head too, but
Ringer, David Waddleton with that one. David, that was actually could be one of the most expensive ones. In 1981, it was $48 million. Adjusted for inflation, that would be $110 million today. Boom.
Wow.
That was, I'm a mark David for that one. What
Well,
else is out there?
On that thought, let's go with was it Meghan Markle? Is that her name?
That
The one that
did
married
not
Prince Harry?
that did not appear. I'm not sure.
Wow.
I'm not sure why that did not appear on this list.
Okay.
This seems like fictitious information as I'm thinking about this now. I wonder if my stuff was outdated.
All right. Well, what about Kim Kardashian and Kanye West?
Oh, that was another option I was
Boom.
thinking.
That's going to go to Kim. Kim, while that was not anywhere near the $48 million, they did sink $2.8 million into a wedding that I wonder how many dollars a day that was. I wonder how much that wedding cost through the lifetime of their marriage. I need to break that down. How many dollars a day that was that they actually spent to be married. That's crazy.
Know.
But yeah, you're in there. Ninth most expensive wedding, $2.8 million.
All right.
Oh, let's see here.
I don't know. This is hard.
Let me throw out some hints. Former first child of the White House.
Oh, a
Chelsea
Clinton?
Clinton?
Chelsea
Yeah.
Clinton. That was a tie. You guys tied on that one. $3 million. $3 million on Chelsea
Wow.
Clinton's. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Wow.
Oh, what about Bill Gates? Bill and Melinda Gates.
Didn't show
They
up
got
on there.
maybe they got married before he was filthy rich.
Yeah. They did a low
You
budget.
locked that one in early.
They did a low budget one.
Kim just. There you go.
Kim just wanted to change her Hollywood squares. That's all. She wanted to be. Okay.
I was losing where I was, so I wanted to mix it up a little bit.
Greatest basketball player of all times. Also had one of the most expensive divorces of all times. Has been since remarried.
Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan. Boom.
Oh,
$10 million.
good one.
10. Yeah. He married somebody. I don't remember. It was a supermodel or something. How about somebody from Friends that got married?
Ooh. Courtney Cox? Jennifer Aniston?
To who?
Brad Pitt?
Yes. That was a measly Milski. That was only $1 million there.
Only.
What about Brad and Angelina when they got married?
No.
Like that would have been expensive. No.
On the list I have, the number 2 was Prince William and Kate Middleton at $34 million.
Kate Middleton.
And Angela baby, I don't know, some Chinese Kim Kardashian type. She was 31 mil. Some Russian heiress to a expensive something. Lolita Osmanov, 10 million. And, another Russian, Alexei Shapovalov, 8 million. I don't know how much his was, but the engagement ring was $8 million.
The engagement ring?
Whoa.
Yep. Yeah. Hopefully that one goes good. Hopefully she said yes, you know.
Oh yeah, she better said yes.
You're hedging your bet on that one. Paul McCartney, Heather Mills, another divorcee, $3 million. Christina Aguilera and Jordan Bratman. Is that somebody?
Oh, didn't even think about that.
$2 million. Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas, somewhere between $1.5 and $2 million. And then Elizabeth Taylor and husband number 8 was 1.5 million. So
I think if I'm learning anything right now, it's that the more money you spend on your wedding, the less likely your marriage is going to last.
yes, indeed.
Yes. Yeah.
And so speaking of low budget weddings, would you please introduce our guest, David Waddleton?
That's a terrible segue.
No,
Are you kidding me?
I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm gonna do that.
I will say that.
I'm totally kidding on that one.
My wedding and honeymoon combined, I think that we spent all together like maybe $6,000. I guess by the time all the food and drink of our honeymoon was spent and stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
See, myself, I'm an operator, so I kind of did an all-in-one thing there. I had my wedding at the same place I had my honeymoon. So We eloped with 0 guests, with no anything. So I think I was probably in and out for about 3,500 or so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would say mine was more expensive than both of y'all's.
Yeah.
If I'm including the honeymoon part, yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah. Well, you guys deserved that amazing trip to Ireland. So.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, Kim, without further ado, why don't you introduce our the not so better half of the newlywed there. Let's him tell his story.
Your segues just keep getting better here, Brett. I would be happy to, though. So today we are joined by Mr. Waddleton, David Waddleton of Walton Bookkeeping and Tax, and he did my taxes this year, so I could say he is a shining star and a hero in my book on getting those things done. So we'll talk more about taxes later, but a few more things about Mr. David here. He's got 3 children of his own, Ashley, Bethany, and Samuel. You have a background in software. Your burning desire is to travel the world and someday have an apartment in Italy for the summer times. Is that right?
Yes.
One thing that I think is really cool that I saw in your profile is that your key to success is basically building trust, and when doing a job, do it right the first time. And I really respect that. And as we said, you recently tied the knot with an amazing woman named Sarah Kendrick of Kendrick Law. So they are now the Waddleton family together, David and Sarah Waddleton, and they were married on Earth Day, which was May 22nd of 2022. I love that. So 5/22/22.
Yes.
What a great wedding anniversary to stand back on. And, normally when we go into or finish my intros, we just go into the next part of the podcast. But today is a little bit special because you're so recently married. I did a little bit of digging and actually looked up some advice for you, David. I thought it was super important to look up some advice for husbands out there. So newlywed husbands or husbands alike, some ways to be a better husband to your wife. And
Kim, I'm very interested in this myself.
Yeah, this is interesting.
This is honestly Chelsea, Brett's wife, emailed me and she was like, "Can you please help my husband be a better husband?" And I was like, "Let me go ahead and use this perfect transition to do just that."
What Kim said is, I'm no miracle worker, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, please. And if my husband's watching too, thank you. Please take some notes here. So we actually have an expert here that was interviewed, like some sort of counselor expert on marriages was interviewed in this article and came up with the 15 things to better yourself as a husband. I'm going to read a few of them. Number 1, ask this question to your spouse. How can I love you better this week? How can I love you better this week? And don't say it with sarcasm. Give her time to answer. Maybe, put it in a love note and let her think about the answer to that. Number 2 was interesting. Share a 6-second kiss. I know what you're thinking. Who counts how long did they kiss for? Well, it may be something to try out. Sharing a kiss like this is not the same as just a peck on the lips. A 6-second kiss is long enough to make your spouse feel like they're wanted by you. It is not long enough to get all hot and bothered, though, but it acknowledges the attraction you both share. And so it's very important to at least try to get that 6-second kiss in there during the week.
There's something romantic about saying 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi while you're kissing. So I can completely...
Just do it silently with your hand behind your ears. 1, 2, 3.
And then she's going to be going, "Why are you counting? What's going on here?"
This is interesting. There's one of them on here says speak their love language, and we've all remembered that whole thing about the love language book that came out. But one that's really fascinating says know your spouse's apology language. So did you know that an apology language was a thing? Similar to love language, a person's apology language is specific to the way that they receive apologies. This is important when dealing with conflict resolution and can be the determining factor when trying to get past a disagreement. If you don't know how your spouse likes to receive apologies, open up a conversation about it to see what they find meaningful. So there could be a specific way to apologize. That's interesting. Take responsibility
so
for
it's
what
not
you
always
can.
groveling.
Yeah, don't always
It's not
grovel.
always
Maybe
groveling,
that
okay.
irritates her.
Wow.
I thought that was the only way to do it.
Ooh. This one's important. Seek to understand, not to agree. So you may not always see eye to eye, but at least try to understand where they're coming from.
Yep, that makes sense.
Allow your spouse to have alone time. That's important. We're human beings. We need to have our alone time. And I think that the last one I'll leave here. I mean, there's so many good ones here, but the last one I'm going to say is take a technology break, David, Brett, Ryan. Take a technology break. Spend some quality time with
I'll work on that one. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about that? My husband's going to say the same thing to me, because oftentimes I get home in the evening and I'm still answering emails for, insurance clients that have questions or policy changes, and I'm responding to them. And so I think that my husband's going to hear me say that and go, right back at you. Take a technology break. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, David Waddleton.
Thank you. Thank you.
So glad to have you, David. We appreciate what you do. As Kim alluded, you do work for her personally and professionally. You do work for me personally, professionally, and we thought we wanted to get you on here, and really, you've really helped us and our understanding of our business, but also our personal finances as well. And so, can you give us an idea, a broad idea of what you do to help keep people fit? What does Waddleton Bookkeeping and Tax do to help keep people fit?
Well, that is actually multiple ways of doing it. So primarily, a lot of things are around taxes, whether it's personal or business. But the other part is dealing with, even though, yes, I do accounting, but a lot of it is about how to keep you safe. What are the right ways of doing things? And there's a lot of right ways, there's a lot of wrong ways, and there's a lot of things that come out on YouTube and TikTok and other platforms that is correct, it's not correct. And a lot of it is education. There are a lot of resources for the IRS. The IRS seems very scary, but it's not. A good example is the IRS is an open book. Literally, you can go out to the IRS website. All of their policies and procedures are in a manual that is published. So if you had something that you needed to do procedurally, they have it written down in a manual that is publicly available for everyone to see. And it's probably one of the few departments in the government where literally it's an open book. It's just navigating the book. So it's kind of one of those things that people don't know about, but it's just one of many things that I can help people do, is navigating the IRS, tax planning, bookkeeping, and just kind of, some of it is procedural. What is the right way to do things? What's the wrong way to do things? And kind of just guidance. And along with my other background, helping with things, is that working with businesses and individuals, it's more about what's the best practice on how to do something. And I do a lot of, I'm all about process. What is a process? If you got to do something more than once, let's make a process so it's repeatable, easy to do, and you can follow the steps. So then you know what you got to do the next time around.
So in light of that, I know we just finished the tax season for this year. Going into next year, as a consumer watching this, listening to you right now, what are some tips and tricks and advice that you'd give them to like kind of line up for next year and keep themselves fit and ready to go for the next tax season?
Right. So if you owed money this year, basically that meant one of a couple of things. One, if you don't have a business and you're just a W-2 employee, that could mean that you are not having enough money withheld from your normal salary. So, or it could mean that you're at the edge of a tax bracket and you may be getting taxed at a higher rate than what they're taking out. And so there's things like that, that's like, if you're not aware of that, you can end up owing money because your combined salary together with you and your spouse puts you into a different tax bracket versus you as an individual, because they're taking out money based on you as an individual. They don't know your total tax situation. So then you could end up in another tax bracket and then you end up owing money. If you're a business and you owe money, well, that also in a way that you need to do estimated taxes, or you don't have enough expenses. And there are valid expenses and for example, like the IRS has a publication, 535, and it's for business expenses. It tells you everything that is allowable business expenses. And there are other resources the same way, and a lot of this is published on the IRS website, free publications. You can go out and read them. It's not the legal verbiage. This is the translation from the legal verbiage. I have to go look at legal verbiage at times. That's gross. You don't want to do that. But at least with these documents, these are so everyone can understand it. You can go through it. It has examples, and it's really kind of helped step you through. All right, how does this apply to me? How does this apply? And it just, a lot of it's very situational. But there are lots of things that an individual or a business can do to help prepare themselves. The other thing is that you should have an ongoing conversation with your tax professional. It's not a once a year thing. This should be every 3 months or every month that you have a conversation with them about, here's what's going on in my life. Do I need to plan for something? What's, those types of things, because what ends up happening is you forget what you did in the last year. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to tax time, it's like, well, what did I do? What did I do for the last 12 months? What's important? What's not important? And by having those conversations and having a tax professional that you can have those conversations with is very important. So then you can plan. You can do all these things as you're going throughout the year. That way, and if it looks like you're going to end up owing, it's not a surprise. You can plan for it and put things in place so that you have things in place so it's an easy transition.
Absolutely. And I think that's an advantage, David. I could probably figure it out myself. I could probably go to YouTube. I could probably Google it. But I'd rather just go David. That's way easier for me just to go David than to go Google. So yeah, and that's the advantage. If I was doing something out of the box, an out of the box software, or I was doing something like that, I would have to research that stuff myself, and I just don't have the time. I don't have the desire. Many times I don't have the gray matter. And so I'd rather just go David. It's a whole lot easier for sure.
Well, and see, that's part of the problem. For example, TurboTax. TurboTax is horrible for consumers unless your returns are very simple, because it's asking you questions and it's developed by programmers. Programmers make mistakes. Software all has problems. But the thing is that it's a yes, no. And if you answer wrong somewhere, you've completely eliminated a path that it won't come back to you. And you may have, maybe it's a situation, or maybe you had part of it and you didn't realize it. So then that could have been a deduction, could be an expense, or I mean, income or something that totally got eliminated, but somebody else probably reported it. And then you get a letter from the IRS afterwards. Well, you either owe or something else was wrong with your tax return. And that's where the human element comes in, because it's there's ways of asking questions that software cannot do by itself. So, and that's also understanding the person and an individual, and that conversation and that knowledge is what helps drive doing a tax return, and helping someone with their business is, and help guiding you people, individuals, businesses on what is the right strategy to do. And if you don't know, that's not a big deal. You can always research and get the right answers.
That's awesome. That's all fantastic information on there. David, let's we're running a little short on the time. Let's I really want to know this though. If you wrote an autobiography, what would it be titled?
Oh my goodness. What would it be titled? Traveling the globe by sampling foods and exploring places everywhere.
That's fun.
That title's so long you need 2 books to put that on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I need 2 books for that one.
Hey, hit him with the bonus question. Kim, hit him with he needs the bonus question.
Okay, so this long titled wonderful 2-part series is made into a movie. Who would you cast for your character? Who is going to play David Waddleton in that movie?
Denzel Washington.
Ooh, I like it.
I love it. I love it. You're gonna be 6'1", buddy. You're gonna be
Yeah,
6'1" David Waddleton.
That's fun.
Well, that's fantastic. We really appreciate that, David. Great. That's great information. We, as we do with every one of our guests, we want to run you through the grinder.
All right.
So a grinder is a series of simple would you rather questions relating to the topics that we discuss in the podcast, general topics, or whatever the heck we feel like.
Fun.
So, David, the Powerball is at the time we did this, initially wrote this, it was at $454 million. Currently, it's at a measly 200 million or so. Would you take that in the 30 years or the half lump sum payment up front? From a tax guy, would you rather take that the 30 years or the half lump sum up front?
I would take the lump sum.
Yeah.
Now, from a tax point of view, that may not be the right answer, but I would rather have it now, and I would put part of it away and spend part of it.
Absolutely.
Love it.
I think I'd be the same way.
All right, David, very important question coming at you now. Who would you rather hang out with, Doctor Who or Dr. Spock?
Ooh, that is extremely tough. I'd have to go with Doctor Who. Have to.
Nice. And we also know
time travel.
we also know from your bio that you are an avid European soccer guy. As an avid European soccer guy myself, Real Madrid or Juventus?
Oh,
I know we're hitting you with some toughies.
Oh, Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an Italian guy myself, but I'll give you Real Madrid.
Okay. Here's a 4th question for you. And if you pass this question of the grinder, then we're going to move on to fit or flop. Ready?
All right.
So, would you rather compete on BattleBots or American Barbecue Showdown?
Ooh, American Barbecue Showdown.
Yeah, that's my guy there.
You passed.
Nice, nicely done. What? Just a bonus question not on there. What would you barbecue, bud?
Brisket.
Man after my heart. You're definitely a guy from Texas for sure.
That sounds delicious.
All right, that brings us on to fit or flop. And this is just a bunch of occupational specific or show related topics that you answer fit if it's a good idea, or flop if it's not so much.
All right.
What do you think about DIY tax software?
Flop.
Yeah, I pretty much saw that coming, right? You mentioned the box earlier. You mentioned the TurboTax earlier.
All right. With your software background, would you say that which one's a fit or a flop? Running your books from an Excel I screwed that up. Let me restart. Running your books from Excel or Google Sheets. Is that a fit or flop?
Flop.
Why is that? For those that may be doing the Excel spreadsheets to do their books, just give me a brief. What would be the flop on that?
Okay, so because they're doing your accounting with a spreadsheet, unless your business is cash-based and super simple, it makes it very complicated. You can't see anything on how your business is actually running. And you want to create reports and you want to see what's going on. Okay, well, Excel can only give you so much information and you can only see it in certain ways. And I mean, unless you're really good at Excel, if you're good at Excel, then you should be using software to run your business. And so, I mean, if you're going through that much work, I mean, you're spending more time updating spreadsheets versus letting online software, which will sync to your bank and do everything for you, you're just doing more work than you need to.
Perfect. And kind of along the same lines is the last of our fit or flop: outsourcing administrative tasks that do not add value to your company. Is that a fit or a flop?
Absolute fit.
Absolutely. And David, that's how we met. I outsourced administrative tasks that do not add value to my company at all. And thus, David Waddleton and I worked together on that. So yeah, I completely understand with that.
Love it. I'd say that you passed today.
Thank you.
Fantastic, David. Thank you so much for being our guest today. You're a
Thank
very
you.
charming individual. We're glad to have you on. And we are really glad to share you with our listener audience because Kim and I, we rave about you and the work that you do for us, both personally and professionally.
So on that line there, David, if someone's watching this and they want to get a hold of you, they've got a tax question or they would love to chat with you about your services for bookkeeping or taxes, how can they reach you?
Well, you can reach me a couple of different ways. I have a website, waddletontax.com. From there, they can actually get to my portal. They can sign up, which is a friendly place to ask questions. The other is my email, david@waddletontax.com, or they can call me at 253-244-4783.
You know, you mentioned your portal, and I've got to stop and do a testimony for you. That software that you use, you know, there's an app on my phone that I downloaded to work with David, and it could not have been easier. It was user-friendly. We were live chatting on a few different questions. He got back to me right away. Thank you for making it so stinking easy to do my taxes. That was awesome.
I try.
And all that information, all those ways to get a hold of you, we're going to drop into the link for our listeners and for our viewers on YouTube or any one of the podcast channels, so that they can get a hold of you and get some more information about outsourcing administrative taxes that don't add value to their business.
Not a problem. So
all right. Yeah. Well, that concludes today's podcast, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We so much appreciate it. Podcast 9 is in the books. Remember, leave us a comment, either one of our moms. That's perfectly okay. And still get entered for a t-shirt on Free T-Shirt Day.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Happy birthday.